Good morning, church. Happy February. All three synoptic gospels, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, record a tender story within another story. Today, I'm going to read Matthew's very short version, only 9 verses. Right before this section that we'll be reading, Jesus has been asked about fasting by the disciples of John, and he was telling the story of the new wine needing wineskins. Now, we'll break to the story. While he was saying these things, behold, a ruler came in and knelt before him, saying, "My daughter has just died, but come and lay your hand on her, and she will live." And Jesus rose and followed him with his disciples. And behold, a woman who'd suffered from a discharge of blood for 12 years came up behind him and touched the fringe of his garment. For she said to herself, "If I only touch his garment, I will be made well." Jesus turned, and seeing her, he said, "Take heart, daughter, your faith has made you well." And instantly the woman was made well. And when Jesus came to the ruler's house and saw the flute players and the crowd making a commotion, he said, "Go away, for the girl is not dead, but sleeping." And they laughed at him. But when the crowd had been put outside, he went in and took her by the hand, and the girl arose. And the report of this went through all that district. Probably not an unusual day for Jesus. He is seen here as being interrupted in the midst of responding to another interruption. Some sound like something that you know a thing or two about in your daily life. Well, I know I do. And my response isn't always as gracious as it should be. C.S. Lewis said, "The great thing, if one can, is to stop regarding all the unpleasant things as interruptions of one's own or real life. The truth is, of course, that what one calls the interruptions are precisely one's real life. The life God is sending one day by day. What one calls one's real life is a phantom of one's own imagination." So I'd like to look at Jesus' responses here. Now, how often do you see these words, "And Jesus rose and followed him"? Jesus, the one doing the calling and whom we're supposed to be following, got up from his teaching, maybe not done with it, and followed his interrupter. What incredible divine humility. The humor of this section of scripture is that while Jesus is being led off by his first interruption to Jesus, but of course absolute life and death to the synagogue ruler, his family, and his daughter, Jesus is interrupted yet again. This bleeding, long-suffering woman with a mixture of faith sprinkled with a dose of superstition has said to herself, "If I only touch his garment, I will be made well." Does touch his garment and is instantly made well. Jesus could have sashayed along, having felt some power leaving him, as the other gospel accounts do tell us. Intent on helping the ruler in his extreme situation, ignoring the one who touched him. But he stops and turns and looks right at this woman who would have been considered unclean and shouldn't even have been in this crowd by Jewish law, but she risks it. And then something very remarkable happens here, beyond the amazing healing, which is, of course, amazing. Jesus owns this woman. Did you know there's only one time in all the Gospels where Jesus is recorded as addressing a woman as daughter? Yeah, this is it. This woman who wanted not to stand out of embarrassment or shyness or humility, we don't know, who didn't want to take much out of Jesus, but just that tiny touch of his robe, just enough for the healing she drained her whole life savings seeking. She got so much more. Jesus called her daughter, the second Adam, naming her. Jesus was heading to heal Jairus' daughter, and on the way he met and healed one of his own daughters, a woman hidden from the world, but no, never hidden from Jesus. These interruptions are the stories of 2 needy daughters, one who has an advocate for her in the form of her earthly father, and the other an advocate who is none other than the Son of God. Yes, he freely responds to her faith, passing over the superstition of ignorance, and heals her not only of her discharge of blood, but sees also another equally debilitating discharge, the long draining out of her spirit, perhaps abandoned in her long illness and shunned as unclean, and he names her his own. What could be more tender than to be made well and to be made family? Jesus said that greater works than these will we do. Can we look at interruptions as the Spirit of God's eruptions in our lives for the sake of others this week? I wonder what he will do when we do. Thank you. Have a great day.